From Mel never breaking a sweat while jogging, to Jack finally remembering who shot him in the most anticlimactic way. These are the worst moments in Virgin River so far. Let's kick things off with Melinda never breaking into a sweat while jogging. Everyone knows that Mel's a huge fan of a good run, right? And to be honest, who wouldn't want to go on jogs in the beautiful Virgin River? But some fans seem to think that her runs are extremely unrealistic. And they've got a point. It's like whenever we see her running, she's wearing a full face of makeup, and she never sheds a single drop of sweat. Oh, and get this, she even once wore a thigh-length coat on her jog. Who goes on a run wearing that? And what bothers the fans so much is that it's so easy to fix, like how hard is it for the makeup artist to give her a sort of dewy look? It's not like people want her looking like a complete mess either. Just a couple of drops of sweat and some hair out of place would definitely get the job done. Plus, this isn't the only thing that makes her jogging moments ridiculous. It's the fact that she goes on these runs all alone in such a shady town, where criminal investigations are taking place, bodies are being found, and a drug lord is trying to take over. All in all, the whole thing just doesn't sit right with the fans. Speaking of things that didn't sit right, they also absolutely hated how Jack Sheridan wronged Charmaine Roberts. Listen, I get that there aren't any big Charmaine fans out there. In fact, most fans of the show just want her to be written off entirely. But hey, you've got to remember that she was wrong too. Back in season 1, Jack was leading Charmaine on until Mel showed up. Even when Charmaine introduced herself as his literal girlfriend, he didn't correct her. And that was a major mistake on his end, because after that, he just immediately switched lanes. And fans weren't happy with that. People think that Jack should have made his intentions very clear to her from the start. He was never going to get serious with her. He didn't love her and was never going to, so why give her mixed signals and mislead her? Not cool. Also, if he'd been straightforward from the start, the show could have avoided the weird love triangle between all three of them. But no, instead of getting rid of the love triangle, they made it one of the major plots of the show, and have dragged it so long that most fans find it pretty unbearable at this point. And to think it was all avoidable, and the drama is so unnecessary. As a Reddit user put it, Jack is 100% wrong for not laying everything out the way it should have been from the start. But then again, as I said earlier, some fans can't be bothered about Charmaine's feelings. All because they hate her every time she appears in the show. Now, the list of Charmaine moments the fans disliked is literally never ending. So instead, let me give you guys a quick rundown of just her top worst moments. Okay, so every time she shows up on the screen, you always see her emotionally manipulating Jack. For instance, remember the time when she informed Jack that she was pregnant? Through a frickin' letter? Yeah, who even does that? And what's worse is that she got so upset at Hope for reading it. I mean, it was an unsealed letter, girl. There was always the possibility of someone reading it. Plus, if she really wanted to protect her privacy so much, why not talk to Jack in person? Or maybe even call him up. Anything would be better than a letter. But that was just her pregnancy reveal drama. Her reaction to Mel coming back was just as unbearable. Charmaine threw the biggest tantrum like a child, and the welcome she gave her was so icy. And even after that, she spent an entire car ride just annoying Jack to see if he knew about her return. The whole scene was super awkward for fans to watch. Like, where does this character's immaturity end? But the writers of the show didn't stop there. They made her hit a brand new low. This was when she threatened to cut Jack out of their kid's life. She basically said that if he wasn't with her, she didn't want him around their future kids. You'd think that after 4 seasons, the writers would at least attempt to make the fans like her even a little. But no, they're really focused on making her as annoying as possible, and the viewers are pretty much sick of the same old childish stuff from Charmaine. Plus, on a side note, can we just talk about how long she's been pregnant? I mean, it's been 4 seasons already, and most of the fans agree that they can't just fill the character development void with a never-ending pregnancy. But hang on, guys, there's more. This next moment will leave you scratching your head. Remember when Preacher was poisoned and left for dead in the woods? This was back in the final episode of season 3. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. A lot has happened since then. Long story short, Preacher meets a supposedly old friend of Paige's, who says she's moving somewhere else and just wants to say goodbye to Christopher before she does. But Preacher insists on talking to Paige first. So the two start driving toward the woods. Along the way, they stop at a store where Paige's so-called friend poisons Preacher's drink, and as soon as they get closer to the woods, Preacher starts to feel funny and passes out. The so-called friend then just steals his phone and leaves. Well, when Season 4 made its debut, keen-eyed fans couldn't help but point out that the writers completely skipped the whole incident. I mean, in the episode, we see Preacher immediately back in the kitchen without any explanation. Nobody has any idea what happened while the guy was unconscious, and it left everyone super confused. They made it seem so important to the plot at first, and then just forgot about it entirely. And that's not the only things fans found weird. There's also Hope making Doc date Muriel. For someone who absolutely loves putting her nose in other people's business, Hope clearly didn't want anyone to know that she and Doc were back together. And so she ended up doing something that a lot of the fans found laughable. She made her husband date another woman. I know, it's ridiculous. Honestly, why would a 70-year-old want to hide who they're dating? That's something you'd expect a teenager to do. The whole plot just seemed like a lazy way to give Muriel some screen time. And fans haven't forgiven the writers for that. Plus, Hope was testing Doc in the most immature way possible, and Muriel definitely didn't deserve to be a part of this weird game. Especially when she's one of the most well-rounded and positive people on the show. According to fans, it did nothing for the story and was just a huge waste of time. But at least they're good friends now, right? And people have actually been enjoying their friendship in Season 4, so yeah, something good came out of that, unlike the moment when the pilot suffered a heart attack mid-air. Yeah, that actually happened. In Episode 4 of Season 4, to be exact, fans were finally happy to see Mel and Jack going on a very romantic date. But the writers were like, nope, let us sprinkle some drama into it. So the pilot who was flying their plane ended up suffering a heart attack. But what made the whole thing unrealistic was the fact that the pilot still somehow managed to stay conscious. And he even gave instructions to Jack on how to safely land the plane. Come on now, how did they even expect the fans to take that seriously? One Reddit user, who was clearly disappointed, wrote about how just when they thought the show was heading in the right direction, they had to go and make the pilot have a heart attack while they were flying. But when it comes to disappointing fans, nothing beats the anticlimactic moment when Jack remembered who shot him. In the Season 2 finale, Jack gets shot by a stranger in his bar, right? Well, before Season 3 made its debut, fans were running wild with their theories, just trying to guess who this mystery person could be. Then, as soon as Season 3 dropped, we saw that while Jack had recovered physically, he had lost his memory about the incident and couldn't remember who shot him. The plot thickened. Everyone thought it would be someone unexpected, someone close to him. But then, in Season 4, we learned that it was Vince, someone who had absolutely no bad blood with Jack in the first place. So yeah, Jack was at the wrong place at the wrong time. All that suspense, that drama, was for nothing, and fans were left super disappointed. Fans thought the reveal was boring and just so anticlimactic. One more thing they didn't like was how quickly the writers just rushed through Jack's whole recovery period. I mean, it would have been nice to see Mel taking care of him. After all, she's a nurse practitioner. So from Jack finally remembering who shot him in the most anticlimactic way, to Mel never breaking a sweat while jogging, these were the worst moments in Virgin River so far.